Good morning, everybody. It's so nice to be back to learn. I think we'll be doing this on a daily video rather than live, just because of my time constraints, and I hope that that's okay. So, what I'd like to look at today is the first pasuk of this week's Parsha Yitro. As we start the year, what an amazing way to start the year on this Parsha, the Parsha of Matan Torah, Parsha where Am Yisrael are going to receive the gift of all gifts. But what is important is how the parsha begins, because the parsha, every in every speech, in every important event, there has to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the beginning of the Matan Torah experience begins, at least in the way the parsha presents itself, with Yitro. So let's start with understanding what is this Yitro all about. So the way the Torah describes it, the Torah says very simple, is that the reason it's called Parshat Yitro is, it says, Vayishma Yitro, that Yitro heard. Vayishma Yitro Kohen Midyan Choten Moshe, Yitro, the Kohen of Midyan, the Choten of Moshe, the brother, the father-in-law of Moshe, et kol asher asa Elohim leMoshe. He heard about everything that Hashem did leMoshe, u'Yisrael amo, and to Israel, his nation. Ki yotzi Adonai et Yisrael miMitzrayim. When Hashem took Bnei Israel out of Mitzrayim. Rashi says, Vayishma Yitro. And it seems to be quite clear what he heard. He heard about all the things. But Rashi says, Ma shmu hashama uba. What is it specifically that Yisro heard and that caused him to come at this point in time? And we're not exactly sure what the point is in time, because there is a machlokes, there is an argument amongst the Rishonim, is the Torah written in its chronological way or not? Rashi says that it is, and Rashi therefore quotes from the Mechilta, which says that what is it that he heard? Kriyat Yamsuf u'melechet Amalek. He heard about Kriyat Yamsuf and Milchemet Amalek. He heard about the war against Amalek. And it always concerned me, what is it about those two, dafka those two? And when we find a Rashi that needs to be explained on a deeper level, very often what is beautiful to look at is what's called the Gur Aryeh. The Gur Aryeh is the Maharal. The Maharal on this quotes from the Gemara in Zvachim, where the Gemara says the following: Mashma Shema Ba. What did he hear? And similar to the Mechilta, that Rashi quotes, and says the following: Rabbi Yeshua said he heard Milchemes Amalek, heard about the war against Amalek. Rabbi Eliezer Hamudai says Matan Torah Shama Uba. He heard about Matan Torah. So therefore, you can see that according to Rabbi Eliezer Hamudai, that it's chronologically incorrect, the place where Yitro comes, because Yitro in the order of the parsha comes before Matan Torah, but according to him, he had already heard about Matan Torah. Okay, Rebbe Eliezer Omer Kriyat Yamsuf Shemaba, and Rebbe Eliezer here says that he heard Kriyat Yamsuf, and because he heard about Kriyat Yamsuf, so that's why he came. So Rashi takes only two of them. He takes Kriyat Yamsuf and he takes Milchemet Amalek, because for him it's chronological, and he says those are the two things that Yitro heard. The question is, why does he need two things? Imagine hearing about Kriyat Yamsuf. You have Kriyat Yamsuf, unbelievable what happened. Isn't that enough to say, wow, look at Ribono Shel Olam? We understand that maybe each one of the plagues wasn't enough for whatever reason, but Kriyat Yamsuf, which is the final kind of the tolling of the bells of Mitzrayim, that's it. It's the end, and that may be the reason why he comes. So, but why do you need Milchemet Amalek as well? Why is it so important that Rashi quotes both of those Tanaim? That the one says Kriyat Yamsuf and the other one says Milchemet Amalek. And so says the Maharal, he says we need to understand that in the world in which Yisro comes from this world. He was the Kohen Midyan, and that's why it says that he was the Kohen Midyan. Kohen Midyan, he was the priest of Midyan. We know that the way Rashi presented it when we spoke first about Yisro, that Yisro was involved in every single possible Avodah Zarah that had existed. He knew everything. He understood everything. He was part of it. He played in it. He engaged in it. But then he did a tshuva process. What prompted him to do a tshuva process? So says the Maharal that these two things, Kriyat Yamsuf and Milchemet Amalek, show HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mastery over the two great systems that exist in the world. Firstly, when they fought against Amalek, let's start with that. So the Torah describes how that they fought ad Bahashemesh. They fought until the sun came, and on that the Torah describes, the Chazal explain, Shemechemet Amalek haya b'shamayim, that the actual fight against Amalek was up in Shemayim. It wasn't just below. We know that Moshe held up his hands. He held up his hands. Everybody looked up. When they looked up, they won. When he dropped his hands, when they couldn't look up, they no longer won. And why is that? He says, because that's lahamida chama levatel marech da shamayim shayu amalkim achashlim. He says that the whole fight was for the Amalek, that they saw that the sun was the primary deity in the world. And what they wanted to do is that they wanted to use the sun to completely upturn in their religious experience, whatever that was, to upturn what was the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the zodiac, the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the universe. They wanted to upturn that. And so therefore there is a fight, obviously, a physical fight going on below in the world, but the major war is happening ad Bahashemesh, until the sun comes. Until the sun comes, Rashi explains that therefore it means that it's that until HaKadosh Baruch Hu is able to, through the vessel of Bnei Yisrael, he's able to overcome the negative spiritual force of Amalek. So that, therefore, we see is that is a level up on a higher level, on a above this natural world in which we live, up in Shemayim. And he says that's Ki Hashemish Meshamesh L'chol Ha'olam. He says there's something important to understand, that the sun it serves the entire world. And so therefore the miracle of the winning of the war against Amalek was a global concept. And so to Kriyat Yamsuf, that we understand that it was also a global phenomenon. Why? Ki hayam, says the Maharal, is Yesod Hamayim. The Yam, the sea, is the foundation of all waters. And because of that, all the waters in the world split when the sea split. Behind, what does he mean? When the foundation is embattled, that's the sea. All the waters get damaged as well in some way. And he says, what's that like? When the heart gets hit, all the limbs get hit. Because the heart is the yesod, the foundation of all the limbs. Because everything gets koach, its strength from that. So too, the yam, the sea, is the yesod, and so therefore, what Yitro sees is he sees that the great Shamayim, the heavens above, are controlled by Kodesh Baruch Hu. And it's not only that, but also below the Yam, the sea, which is the Yesod of everything, is also controlled by Kodesh Baruch Hu. And when he sees that, he realizes that there's one single system. And because there's one single system that is controlling everything, both Kriyat Yamsuf and Milchemet Amalek, the sea and the sky, so then he says, wow, that's something I want to be a part of. That's something that I've never had before. Because throughout his world of Avodah Zorah, he's always had different forces that have been in control of different things. And that's why, says the Maharal, the 10 plagues were a fight against each one of the different spiritual forces that Yitro previously had engaged with. But now he had never seen a holistic system against both on the sky and on the sea, taking over the entire world. And that HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed him doing that. But I thought there's perhaps something else to say. And that is the following. Kriyat Yamsuf is the most unbelievable glory of the Jewish people. It's the completion of Mitzrayim. It's the taking them out of slavery, putting them now into this space of free people. Everybody wants to be a part of that. But there's something else. And that is, to be part of the Jewish people, you also have to understand that there's always going to be animosity towards us. there's always going to be hatred towards us. That's part and parcel of what it means to be a Jew. On the one hand, we have the glory of Kriyat Yamsuf, of the freedom of who we are, of incredible shira, of joy, of simcha, and at the same time, there's Melchemet Amalek. In every generation, there are going to be, as we say in the Seder, B'chol Dor Vador, right? Every generation, there's always those who want to come rise up against us. And if that's the case, you might think that Kriyat Yamsuf is attractive, but Melchemet Amalek is not attractive. And so therefore it could have pushed him away. But no, says Yisro, I understand that Kriyat Yamsuf brings them to freedom, and Melchemet Amalek is a proof of the fact that we, Am Yisrael, are a special nation with a special mission. And says Yisro, I want to be part of that. Let's go stop there. Please God, we'll continue tomorrow. Have a beautiful day, everybody.